Open up the April 14th, 2021 East Greenbush Planning Board meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
The flag
United States of America,
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. We'll jump right into it. We do have a public hearing, the 7 p.m. public hearing for Christo. Actually, I have to start with our notice regarding the planning board Zoom meeting. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to COVID-19 virus, the planning board will convene its April 14, 2021 board meeting remotely as follows. The board meeting will commence at 7 p.m. and will be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based video conferencing tool with local desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow the planning board members and those with business for the board to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without a video connection. In order that members of the public can view the proceedings.
Matt, I just I muted you, Matt. I'm sorry about that.
Where was I at?
Members of the public was the
In order
last.
that members of the public can view the proceedings, the meetings will be live streamed on the town's YouTube channel. Members of the public with questions and/or comments can send correspondence to info@eastgreenbush.org. Correspondence sent to this email will not be answered in real time. Please note that this meeting will be conducted remotely only and will not be held at Town Hall, which is currently closed. No longer currently closed. It's now open, I believe. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed and posted to the town's website. That we'll move into the public hearing, and I'll begin that with reading the notice for the Christo 2-lot minor subdivision. Please take notice that the planning board of the town of East Greenbush will hold a public hearing on April 14, 2021, beginning at 7 p.m. to consider the following matters. The town of East Greenbush Planning Board shall conduct a public hearing pursuant to section 276 of the town law and the town's land subdivision regulations on the application of Michael Christo Jr. for a minor 2-lot subdivision called Old Troy Road Minor 2-lot Subdivision. Proposed lot 1 consists of 1.54 plus or minus acres for a proposed building lot. Proposed lot 2 consists of 0.88 plus or minus acres for a building lot. The property is located in the R2 residential zoning district, tax map numbers 166.11-1-1.22 and 166.7-7-7.11. Said public hearing will be held on Wednesday, April 14, 2021 at 7 p.m. At the above time and place, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard by order of the planning board, Matt Maston, chairman. Pursuant to Executive Order number 202.1, issued by Governor Cuomo on March 12, 2020, and advisories issued by federal, state, and local officials related to the COVID-19 virus, the planning board will convene the public hearing remotely as follows. The public hearing will commence at 7 p.m. and shall be conducted through the use of Zoom, a web-based video conferencing tool with local desktop client and smartphone applications that will allow the board members and the public to participate electronically and remotely by audio and with or without a video connection. The meeting will also be live streamed.
Unmuted.
Okay, with that, I think we'll get into it. So Mr. Christo, Adam, if you can unmute him, you want to let us know what you're looking to do here? I believe we've already seen.
Let's just say you are.
You are unmuted now.
Go ahead, Mike. I think you're unmuted.
Yeah, we're just looking to restore the property back to what it was in '02, with essentially moving the lot line so that the easement for the property is in lot, what is now 24, and no longer in lot 3. Which would give the lot 24 the road frontage.
You are unmuted.
All right.
Don, is that you?
Hey, can you hear me? It's Don.
Yep. Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, you probably heard from Allison. I had a lot of problems. I'm still having them with the computer. So anyway, just so you can hear me.
No, we
Okay,
got
thank you.
So Mike, anything else before we open up to the public for their comment?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the board?
This is Don. I'm good.
All right, so I'll do the roll call. Ralph,
I'm fine, thank you.
Chris? You're muted, Chris.
Sorry about that. Mr. Custo, could you just recap again when the lot lines got redrawn and who redrew them and why? I'm just a little confused about that still.
Yeah, in 2000, late 2001, 2002, my father sold 6 acres to Joe and Lori Kelly on the back part of the property, and they wanted to do a lot line adjustment. There was an application to go from 4 lots to 4 lots, and the understanding was that the 3 lots that we had would still be there, plus my lot, which would be the 4 lots. And the way the map was submitted, the board approved, essentially, it went from 3 lots to 2 lots and it put the piece that we're talking about into my lot. But that property was never conveyed to me. It was never purchased nor deeded or given. It stayed in my father's name. So the map that was filed was different from the application that was made. And in the process, he lost essentially 1 lot.
Okay. And at that time, you didn't try to correct the situation?
I really wasn't involved with it. It was between Joe and my father. And my father had signed the application that was submitted for 4 lots to 4 lots. And the map that got filed was, if you include my lot, it was essentially 3 lots. So it went from 4 to 3 instead of 4 to 4. We never realized it because the tax map never changed. So for the last 25 years, we've always gotten 3 tax bills. I got my own, and then there was 3 tax bills for the other 3 lots. So we had just assumed that the lots had remained the way they were.
Okay. Is there a discrepancy now with what the Kellys believe was the lot line situation?
I imagine so, because over the years, Joe and I have talked, and I told him that there was a lot there, and he believed that there wasn't. So we had 2 different ideas of what was there, and in essence, we were both wrong. There was a lot there, but it was essentially now landlocked property because it didn't belong to either Joe or myself, and it had no road frontage. So in the lot line adjustment that was done, that piece of property got landlocked, and I wasn't aware of it because I wasn't really involved in the process. I just assumed that there was still a lot there.
And so who's been paying the taxes on the lot?
My father, he owns it.
Okay. But it shows that you're the owner based on where the
My
lot.
father and I we essentially have the same name, I'm Junior.
Oh, okay.
So it goes to, and I'm also, I don't know if it's in the trust or not, but I don't know how it's deeded, but it may be in the trust or not. But there's 3 lots. Matter of fact, there's 2, the way the tax, the rules show, I think there's 2 22 Old Troy roads. So they have that wrong as well. One of the lots is still listed as 22, but the Kellys are 22.
Okay. All right. And is there a member of the Kelly family in this meeting tonight?
Yeah, we'll get to that after we get through the. Looks like,
Okay.
Kelly.
Thank you. I'm good for now. Thank you for that explanation. I just was unclear how the misunderstanding took place, because someone's obviously paying taxes on a lot, but maybe with the 2 last names being the same, that's where some of the confusion could have been.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Kurt?
No comments. Thank you.
John, you already commented. John Conway?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Hey, you guys, I can't with this background. I think somebody has to mute.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's your microphone.
Okay.
Sorry, my fan's running on my computer. I don't know how to turn it off. Let me just unmute.
Yeah, so Kateri, but there was no further comment from Kurt or John Conway.
Great.
Now we will go to the members of the public. I will note that for the record, Mrs. Kelly did submit a letter to the planning board, which I think everyone received. I see Mrs. Kelly is on. If you would like to speak, or if you just like to have your letter submitted to the record, it's up to you. She unmute her quick, Adam.
Yeah, Ms. Kelly, you have to click the unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Would you like to speak, or you want to just have your letter entered in the record? Up to you.
I would like my letter entered in the record. Has everyone read it?
Yeah, I read it. I think it got out a couple days ago. Was it?
I sent it in last week.
Yep. So yeah, I received it. I read it. I imagine the rest of the board did. And just for your knowledge, I don't believe we're taking any action, or don't plan to take action tonight. So if someone didn't read it tonight, they're going to have the opportunity to do so prior to the next meeting.
Yes, I would just like to make the comment that prior to us moving here, we looked at many properties. I grew up pretty much in the sticks in Paulson Kill. I did not want to live in a development. The only reason we chose to live here was because Pat decided to sell us the land. He actually drew the lines on the plan that Joe filed with the town. Pat drew them himself and signed the paperwork. And we would have never in a million years built the house that we built here or worked as hard as we did on the property that we have here if there was going to be a house jammed between ourselves and Mike Christo. We would have never done that. We would have looked elsewhere. So I do have an objection to this. And also the fact that, you know, obviously a road's been put in with construction debris and trees have been cut down like it's already been approved.
Yeah, which it hasn't. You did have a very detailed letter with pictures, so we appreciate that. At least I do. So we will have your letter in the record, and these comments are being transcribed right now as well. So they will be in the record for the project.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else, if you have comments or would like to comment, please, Adam, they can raise their hand or something, right?
Yeah, actually, Matt, the folks aren't muted tonight, so just keep yourselves on mute and unmute when you want to speak, you know, and it's your turn.
All right, so if there's anyone else out there that would like to speak on the 2-lot subdivision, please do so now. Give me a couple seconds here. Okay, if there's nothing else from the board, we'll go to the formalities. If there's anyone in the public that would like to speak for the Christo 2-lot subdivision, or anyone that would like to speak for the Christo 2-lot subdivision. And finally, is there anyone that would like to speak for the Christo 2-lot subdivision? Is there anyone like to speak against the Christo 2-lot subdivision? I believe Ms. Kelly already did. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against the Christo minor 2-lot subdivision? And finally, is there anyone that would like to speak against the Christo minor 2-lot subdivision? Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to close the public hearing, Joe.
Yes.
Later.
Yes, sorry about that.
Make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah. All
Roll
right,
call
second,
just-
Mr. Viola.
Roll call as follows: Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes,
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Hey, Allison, you heard me okay, right?
Yes,
Don?
thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Christo, thanks for coming in for the public hearing, or dialing in.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to 2105, 15 Troy Road for a special use permit and review the site plan.
Kateri, you're all done. Excuse me. You're all set, Kateri. Thanks.
You're good to go.
Would you like me to begin?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you, I think. So we have submitted the amended application as requested. I believe Allison received the appropriate fees and the signed application. We also submitted the new sign proposal with the landscaping diagram to the best of our abilities when we do not own landscaping software, showing the boxwood plants, the perennials of the daylilies, where the light placement will be in relationship to the sign, which I believe was the last requirement as far as something in physical writing showing that on a piece of paper.
Okay. So next we move on to the board to see who has comments or questions. So this is a this is a chiropractic business, right?
Yes, and the new sign location where it was placed on the original site plan that you guys received. Obviously, that old sign will be removed. It will be recessed back towards the property a little bit, both directions, and meeting with the new conformity that you gave us as far as what is required of the signage. But last meeting, obviously, the concerns about what the landscaping surrounding the sign would look like, which we only had in words at that moment in time. So now we have drawn an oval around it. There'll be mulch in the middle. We'll plant the two, smaller boxwoods on each side, have some symmetry, and the way the lights will present, so that they're not, causing any disruption to any of the neighbors who may be there, at night. Obviously, for us, the business won't, will only be open till 6 o'clock, 6:30. But for the neighbors that actually live on the street, that won't give them any lights in their windows.
Okay. So go through the board. Ralph, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I think she did a good job on the sign. I like it delineated. It doesn't show, I'm assuming that's just a mulch bed that I'm looking at. Is that correct?
There was, I don't know if you saw two views. There was the aerial view and then the frontal view. So yes, I mean, with a perimeter of, whether we're going to do, landscape stone of some kind, but mulch will be in the center to give that border so that whoever's mowing the property, isn't having to run through the middle of the bed.
Sure. Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Chris? You good? Kurt?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don?
Sounds good to me.
Thanks, Don. John Conway?
I'll just note that this is a exterior lit sign, right? The lights will be shining on it.
Yes, from either just up above, underneath. Yes, so not an internally backlit. No.
Yep. And I just want to say I'm happy to see that. We see so many internally lit signs in this town. It's really nice to see them like this.
Depending on the nature of your business and what you can afford, I guess, the internally lit signs are wonderful things, but.
Okay, well, I'm glad this isn't one of them.
This will not be one of them.
Okay, so that's the board. I mean, is everyone comfortable voting on this? Is anyone objecting to voting on this? I guess is the better question. Okay.
Adam. Matt, I just want to note, after our discussion at last meeting, the proposed resolution includes a voluntary reduction in the necessary amount of parking spaces.
Yes.
I think the applicant has demonstrated that she only needs 3 spaces, where I believe the minimum would have been 5.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks.
And and there's also a condition in there that parking should not be across the street as well. And as was discussed at the last meeting as well, it's a vacant lot. Parking as a primary use in that zone is not permitted. So that's a condition in there as well. I just wanted the board to be aware of that.
Joe, does it matter if I read the site plan or the special use permit first or second?
Use the, read the special use permit provision first, because I believe that it also has a seeker action in there.
Okay. You guys are your long resolutions. All right, so I'll make a motion, whereas an application's been filed by George Balog for 15 Troy Road, East Greenbush, New York, PPV zoning district, proposing the operation of a chiropractic office. And whereas the proposal would constitute a health, medical offices or clinic outpatient in the town's PPP zone requiring a special use permit. Whereas the applicant has filed an application for a special use permit for a health, medical offices or clinical outpatient at the property located at 15 Troy Road, East Greenbush, New York. Tax map number 166.7-6-5. And whereas the planning board has duly published a notice of public hearing regarding this appeal in the record on March 17, 2021. And whereas notice of the initial public hearing is provided by certified mail to the owners of all property within 200 feet of the land involved in the application, to the town planning board and to the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning. And whereas a public hearing was held by the planning board on Wednesday, March 24th, 2021 to consider this appeal. Whereas at this hearing, the applicant as well as any and all persons interested in this appeal were heard. Their statements recorded in various written material, including exhibits, if any, were entered into the record. And whereas all statements, written material, and exhibits submitted in connection with said appeal have been carefully considered. And whereas the planning board has carefully reviewed the materials submitted in connection with the appeal under SECRA, including the short environmental assessment form, and hereby classifies the action as a type 2 action under 6 CRR NY 617.5 subsection C 18. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the planning board makes the following findings of fact. The site is zoned PPB, which is intended to provide transitional areas where existing single-family home structures can transition or be converted into personal or professional offices, allowing commercial services while maintaining small-scale community neighborhood. The proposal is to reuse an existing vacant prior office space attached to an existing single-family residence. Because the site will remain approximately 75% green space, an existing office will be reused medical outpatient and allowed use in the zone, and there's sufficient access to the street network. It is in harmony with the orderly development of the district. The only exterior changes to the site involve a new sign and removal of an existing sign and flagpole. The applicant intends to have a maximum of 2 patients at any one time, and approximately 715 square feet of office space is a third of the total building area. The building is set back from the westerly line about 57 feet, and the parking and access are on the south side. Therefore, the proposal will not discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings or impair the value thereof. There is no internal traffic circulation system proposed. Site access is proposed to be via an existing driveway. The site contains approximately 4 existing mature trees, and these trees are proposed to remain. The proposed use is in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood because of the hours of operation and anticipated traffic are typical of a small healthcare outpatient provider office allowed in the PPP. No changes to the exterior of the site beyond landscaping and restriping for parking are proposed, and the business use of the building is generally consistent in character and appearance with other business uses found along the PPP zone along Route 4. No exterior lighting is proposed. All business operations will be conducted inside the office building. Traffic will be limited to 1 to 2 patients. Therefore, the operations will not be more objectionable than nearby properties and will not adversely affect the general welfare of the inhabitants of the town of East Greenbush. No changes are proposed to the exterior beyond landscaping and restriping of the parking. Fire and police protection access will therefore remain unchanged and appear appropriate for the nature of the site. Be it further resolved that the application for a special use permit for the operation of a chiropractic office be granted with the following conditions. 1, no employees or patients shall park in the vacant lot across the street. Resolution was moved by Matt Maston. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Conway. Got Mr. Bergman by a second. Literally.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Don, you're on mute. Don, you're on mute. We might be here all night.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Can you hear me now, Don?
Yep,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
yep.
Okay, I'm good. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Motion carried by 6-0
All right.
vote.
All right, so next we have to do a resolution for site plan modification. So I will make a motion that the Town of East Grimmer's Planning Board has carefully reviewed the application submitted for the subject project, including the undated site plan materials transmitted electronically to the Planning Board and Zoning Board on April 9th, 2021, and does hereby reaffirm the classification of the proposed project as a type 2 action under 6 CRRNY 617.5 subsection C18 and approves the site plan modification subject to the following conditions. A voluntary reduction from the off-street parking and loading dock standards, table 3A, in accordance with section 3.1.a, subsection A01 of the comprehensive zoning law is hereby granted, as the applicant has demonstrated that their business and the size of the space to be reused required a maximum of 3 parking spaces. Parking is not an allowed primary use in the R2 district, and as such, the site plan should be revised to remove parking alternatives in the adjacent vacant lot 166.11-1-3 or Greenbush Avenue. The proposed landscaping plan consisting of retaining existing green space, retaining existing vegetation, and installation of approximately 130 square feet of new landscaping around the proposed sign is an acceptable alternative landscaping option in accordance with section 3.2.5 subsection B02 of the comprehensive zoning law. Satisfying outstanding technical details as determined by the town planning and zoning department, and all remaining fees are paid to the town. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in your business, and if my back starts hurting,
There's obviously several of around, but I like my little office.
all right. So, yeah, best of luck. Thanks for going through the process with us.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep. Have a great night.
You too.
Next, we'll move on to 1408 Deer Pond, Elliott Road for a major 62-lot subdivision. Mr. Brick? I hope you're bearing good news as you enter this meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I am. Nice to see you. Hopefully this is for the last time. I believe we've done everything we've needed to do to be entitled to a vote on the final conditional plat approval.
I can assure you this will be the last time. So let us know what you guys have accomplished since last time.
I turn it over to Kevin Boswell, and he can go, and Alvaro Gonzalez from Boswell. They can go through the list.
Mr. Boswell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We have worked extensively with Adam and Hank, and we believe we have satisfied all of their comments. And again, we commend them for being diligent and thorough. And there was further comments that were exchanged last week. And again, we believe we have responded and satisfactorily addressed them as well. So we're unaware of any outstanding issues at this time.
Adam, do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's, we, not just myself and Henry, but the Commissioner of Public Works as well, who, that department's going to be involved in owning and operating a lot of infrastructure. So yeah, agreed, Matt. I think we're good to go.
All right, so let's go through the board. Unless the applicant has anything else to say. I would recommend saying nothing, just let it go, and we'll see what the board has to say at this point. It's been a long 7 years.
I thank you all. I have nothing to say. I
Thank
wait
you
for
very
your
much.
approval. Thank you.
Ralph,
I'm fine.
Chris?
I just have a question. We were talking last week and in previous meetings about the pond. And Allison, I know you sent around a bunch of different drawings through the years of the site plan. And from the way that I was interpreting those drawings, it did look like originally, well, the most recent site drawing doesn't have the pond included, but in earlier versions, it did, or there was no delineation in that area. There was no border one way or another. So to me, the way I interpreted it, the pond was part of the site. Can anyone else speak to that? Because I know that's something that still seemed to be an open issue as of last meeting.
Kevin, can you speak to that as well?
Yes, thank you. The pond, I cannot speak to whether it was originally part of the application. I don't know. I can tell you that the pond, as far as I am aware, and that dates back to late 2019, it was not. And I'm not saying that to be coy. I don't know prior to that date. I will say that on Monday, Surya Salapu sent an email to Adam indicating that precedent to anything like now, it was his intention to bring in a maintenance contractor to actually clear the pond and clean it up. And that would be done as soon as the weather broke, and it would be done immediately. So it is, and I would, be happy to ask Surya to comment further, but it's the applicant's property owner's intention to clean up the pond, separate and distinct from the application before you tonight.
Chris, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So again, the most recent drawing does not show the pond as part of this project, and so the intentions of the owner are separate from this project now. But originally, the pond was part of the project land.
I do not. I cannot answer whether it was ever part of the application. I can tell you for a period of a number of years, it has not been, but I would turn this over to Surya at this time.
But so what you're proposing now, it's a separate parcel, right?
It is not part of the application, nor has it ever been to my knowledge. I'm just trying to be as forthright as I can.
From my side, I can say that it was not a part of the plan, or it was not a part of the property. But since I own the house with the ponds, I took the responsibility of taking care of the ponds, and I think by May they would be cleaned up. And I've already contracted it to someone. I can assure you that the ponds will be well maintained now onwards.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, are you good? Okay. Kurt?
No comments at this time.
John Panton?
I'm good.
John Conway? You're on mute, John.
I got no questions or comments this time.
Okay. Is there any objection to voting on this tonight? All right. Adam, what am I reading here?
So there's, you would make a motion, you would make two, you make the first motion, and Joe, please jump in if needed. The first motion would be to adopt the amended addendum to the seeker, the negative declaration. And that was published out with the agenda. So that would be by motion, and that we have not changed. The second motion would be to amend the resolution that we that was out published with the agenda. There's, and I could pull that up on the screen. There was an issue with the parkland provisions of both the New York State town law and the town subdivision regulations that we felt the board should address. And so that was the red line version of the resolution that we sent around. And so, yeah. And here, let me just, I'll pull that up.
I'll read this entire thing.
You would read the red text, or as Joe instructs, right? And then the board, then you would make, the board would vote on that, right? And then they would vote, then you would do a second motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
Yeah. Okay.
Joe, say that again. What am I, or Joey, what am I? I'm going to make a motion to say what before I read the red text.
Making a motion to pass the resolution as amended,
And then
read the red text.
Okay.
And before that, a motion to adopt the seeker, the amended addendum to the neg deck.
So that's a separate document, isn't it, Adam? Can you pull that up for him?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that one with me. And this was published, right? So this one I don't have to read in full, or I do?
Right. You don't have to read it in full. That's correct.
So I will make a motion reaffirm the issuance of a negative declaration under seeker for Deer Pond major subdivision 1408. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Now I'm going to make a motion to accept the amendments to the conditional final plat approval for Deer Pond major 65 lot subdivision. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby makes the following findings in accordance with Article 4, Section 2, subsection C of the Lands, Town, and Subdivision Regulations and Section 277 of the Town Law. Because of the topography and location of the subdivision, which involves deed restrictions to be placed on approximately 44.37 acres on the site to ensure permanent preservation of open space for wetland and wildlife resources, the requirement for land dedication or reservation for parks and other public open space purposes is deemed undesirable by the planning board. The alternative payment in lieu of dedication set forth in Article 4, Section 2, subsection C3 must be required, and the required payment in lieu of dedication will be accomplished by the developer's adherence to the land development impact mitigation provision set forth in the Western East Greenbush Generic Environmental Impact Statement 2009 and Local Law 5 of 2018. Is that where I stop?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
That was Kurt got it, I think.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn, she
I
say
can't
yes,
see-
I raise her hand.
Yeah, Lauren, I can't see her. Chris, did you vote?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Mr. Brick, I look forward to not seeing you for quite a while, unless you have a different project.
Understood.
Thank you guys and good luck.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
everyone. Have a good night.
Thank
Well,
you.
Mr. Boswell, you can come back. We haven't seen you quite as long.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and the board. Thank you.
And I will, again, I'd like to just compliment all of your professionals. You're an extremely thorough and professional, capable staff. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure they very much appreciate that. All right, you guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to 1918 Pheasant Hollow, Phillips Road, for a final plat amendment for sewer easement. We got Steve Hart on the line.
Yes, thank you, Matt. So I believe the members have got just an updated, let's see, it would be a survey map that was done by Creighton Manning, who was the project surveyor. In essence, what we are looking to do is to widen the utility easement along the front of the site, which would be on Phillips Road. I believe we had it widened 5 foot in some spots, and down near the larger pond, we had it widened, or we're requesting to widen it 15 feet. A couple different things that we discovered during construction. There was an old Verizon line buried underground that no one knew about. So it forced us to kick the sewer line out just a little bit. And then down near the pond, there was some rock we had encountered. And there was also a big gully that's existed down there as well. So that encompasses lot number 9, which would be on the south side, the furthest south lot on that subdivision. And we'd be kicking that out to 15 feet in that little area there that crosses in front of the pond. None of the widening affects by any means any of the lots there. It actually just gives us a little bit more room for install, maintenance, things of that nature. So the houses are all set back 35 to 50 feet. So widening the easements up front really doesn't have any impact on the lots, but it is a change to the subdivision plat. So I think we wanted to bring it in front of the board. Hopefully you're in agreement, and then we can have the surveyor just modify the map so we can refile that in the county clerk's office.
All right, thanks, Steve. So we'll go through the board. Ralph, any comments or questions?
Oh, fine, thanks.
Chris? Chris is good. Kurt?
Yep, no questions.
Don Panton?
Yeah, I want to ask Steve, that's still remaining a 30-foot pump up, right?
That is correct. The 30 foot in elevation, Don, is that what you're asking about?
Yes. In other words, you're going to have grinders, right? In all the buildings, all the houses.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that again. I'm okay.
Thanks, Don.
John Conway?
Yeah, I was thinking about trying to avoid involvement in Pheasant Hollow here, but I think it's a straightforward enough issue at issue tonight. So I will vote. I have no further questions on it.
Thanks.
Right. Any objection to voting tonight from anyone? Okay. Anything else, Steve?
That would be it.
All right, with that, I'll make a motion that whereas the Town of East Squamish Planning Board on August 12, 2020 did grant final plat and pre-construction approval under section 276 of the town law for a major residential cluster subdivision entitled Pheasant Hollow 10-lot subdivision for 9 single-family detached dwelling units and 1 remaining lot on which a golf course will continue to operate, consisting of 106.78 plus or minus acres in the RB zoning district located off of Phillips Road and Hayes Road, tax map number 177.00-5-22 in the project. And whereas the planning board required improvements to the town's sanitary sewer system as a condition of its final plat approval of the project, and upon successful installation and testing of the sanitary sewer facilities within the public right-of-way and or easements, these facilities shall be dedicated to the Town of East Greenbush, who will own and operate the same. And whereas during construction of the sanitary sewer improvements along Phillips Road, The developer needed to alter the alignment of the proposed sanitary sewer force main along the frontage of lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This alignment alteration necessitates that a utility easement be conveyed to the town. This proposed utility easement is shown on a drawing entitled Subdivision Plat Pheasant Hollow 10 lot subdivision and right-of-way conveyance 2670 Phillips Road, prepared by Hart Engineering, dated September 2019, last revised on March 9, 2021, and generally runs along with the aforementioned lots parallel to Phillips Road at a distance that varies between 15 feet and 25 feet from the proposed right-of-way conveyance, and that collectively these construction phase alterations are referred to hereinafter as the modification of design improvements. And whereas the town's designated engineer, Adirondack Mountain Engineering, PC, did an electronic correspondence dated Friday, 11/13/2020, 9:40 a.m. Sign off on the proposed sanitary sewer force main alignment change. And whereas the planning board did issue a negative declaration for the project on June 10th, 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that the East Greenbush Planning Board hereby finds that the proposed modification of design of improvements described above are consistent with the previously issued negative declaration under SECRA and consistent with Article 5, Section 1, subsection C of the town subdivision regulations, and does hereby approve the modification of the design of improvements as a minor modification in accordance with the town's land subdivision regulations, subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant must file an amended plat with the county clerk's office showing the modification of design improvements subject to, subject to technical comments from the town's planning and zoning department and town designated engineer. The proposed utility easement be incorporated into the applicant's final plat submission, including the required certifications required under Article 7, Section 4 of the town subdivision regulations. And the applicant's final submission must address all outstanding technical comments and be compliant with all other sections of the town's subdivision regulations not specifically addressed herein. And all other conditions of the final plat approval for the project issued on August 12, 2020 remain in effect. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Payne.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn, Ms. Horn, Mr. Pan,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you all very much.
Next, we'll move on to referrals, reports, recommendations. So we have ZBA Appeal 2021-03, Nettinger 1266 Best Road for an area variance for a solar array. A report by Chris Horn, this was distributed, I think, a few days ago. Can't hear you for some reason, Chris. Excuse me. Are you the 779 number?
Oh, can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. My fan is still going on my computer. It probably sounds like a lawnmower to you guys.
It's actually better.
Is it? Yeah. Well, I just disconnected my computer audio, and now I'm on my cell phone. So I didn't know if you could hear me over the buzz of my computer. So anyway, hopefully you guys had a chance to take a look at my report. This was a difficult project. I really struggled with this on a number of fronts, but this is a request for an area variance, and the area variance is for a 5 megawatt solar energy system, which is considered a large-scale solar energy system. The variance request is because to build a 5 megawatt solar system, it requires about 8.25 acres of surface area. The town's current solar energy law, which was enacted in 2017, stipulates that the maximum lot coverage for a solar system such as this can only be 2.5 acres. So the area variance is requesting to go from the 2.5 acre maximum that the town allows per its 2017 solar energy law to 8¼ acres. And I put a little bit of information about the solar energy law background because I think that's probably one of the most important things in this discussion. The town's law was enacted in 2017, and at the time that was based on New York State standards for what the limitations were for large-scale solar, which was 2 megawatts. And back then, 2 megawatts equated to about 2½ acres of land, and that was the basis for the town law. A year later, New York State and the Public Service Commission updated its laws about maximum for large-scale solar and switched its standard to be 5 megawatts, not 2 megawatts. But the town of East Greenbush never updated its laws. So we have, to some degree, an outdated law in terms of keeping up with the standards as set by New York State and the Public Service Commission. So looking at this request, which is off of Best Road, it's the 8½ acres, sits on a plot of land that's about 150 acre parcel. And, I've identified in my report that if you look at the neighborhood character, it's really kind of difficult because of the topography of the project to fully determine the extent of character change. The parcel or the area where they're proposing to build the solar array sits in the back corner of the acreage, and it sits next to a right-of-way, a National Grid right-of-way, that if you're driving down Best Road, you possibly might get a glimpse for a couple of seconds of the edge of the solar array. I talked to the developer of this project. He's very willing to consider screening of various sorts. There is a neighbor at a neighboring piece of land. I wasn't able to talk to the neighbor. Apparently the owner of the land has talked to the neighbor. The access road into this planned solar system is on the property owner's driveway, and they're talking about constructing a continued access road that would go back to the solar array field, but the neighbor also uses the driveway as his access road. So there's a number of things that would have to get worked out. And in driving around the area, there's also about more than half a mile away, another road called Lewis Drive that sits at a high point of that area. And there's where this solar array system sits is also a high point elevation wise of that area. And, they're pretty close, but it's very hard to tell whether the neighbors, even though they're more than a half a mile away, that sit at Lewis Drive would be staring right at this 8½ acre solar panel field. And so, I think that in terms of determining neighborhood character, there's more work that would have to be done, particularly, if the ZBA chooses to grant this variance. I suggested that they should definitely require a visual impact study and any other conditions to be sure that we fully understand how the neighborhood character is impacted. Similarly, there are some environmental concerns that have to be looked at that I won't go into a lot of details. It's in my report. But the biggest issue to me is that there's no alternative, first of all, to develop a 2½ acre solar array that is economically viable. The marketplace has changed since 2017, and there is no alternative that would allow an economically feasible large-scale solar development to proceed on this property within the town's current surface limitations. But we're talking about the town law right now being 2½ acres of surface area. They want to put in 8¼ That's about a 350% increase in what's currently allowed. And I think that's very substantial. And I think this is a good project. I think that the neighborhood character issues, and environmental issues have to be worked on. they're probably not insurmountable to figure out, but I just don't think that this is appropriate for such a substantial request to go through an area variance, because this is the first large-scale solar project that has been requested in East Greenbush, and it sets the precedent for all the others. And if we say, okay, you can have 8.5 acres because that's the baseline for economic feasibility, then every other developer to follow, should have the same precedent. And everybody that's going to be the way that this goes. Is these are all going to go through area variances. And I really think it's important that this is looked at through the town law, and that the town board re-examines what the law is, and that this isn't just going to be a workaround every time a project like this comes up, that the developer, asks for an area variance. And once we establish the precedence here in giving that, then, there's no reason others wouldn't be able to have the same, the same variance given to them. So because of that, my recommendation was denying the applicant's request for an area variance, but also, I believe that the town should consider amending its solar law and becoming more contemporary, with the economies of scale of solar systems today, and having a more robust and thorough planning process for solar. I talked to the planner at Adam's advice in the town of Skodak, just to do a little benchmarking. Skodak has 5 different solar projects. One is done already, 3 are in the works in construction, 1 still on the drawing board. They're all 35 acres. I mean, that's, when you're talking large scale solar, that starts at about 20 acres and up, or 20 megawatts and up. And so this isn't a substantial project as solar projects go, but it is substantial in saying we're going to give an area variance of 350%. And, my recommendation was to deny the request for the area variance, not based on, I guess, the merits of the project, but based on the fact that I don't believe that an area variance is the way to approach a solar decision like this. I think it should be approached by town law.
All right, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I would say I was involved in creating that law, and it wasn't completely based around the state requirements. It was also based around, an 8 acres of solar can be ugly, and our landscape in East Greenbush is quite a bit different than Skodak, I think, right? They also have a 1,024,000 square foot Amazon facility, which
true, yeah.
They're quite a bit different than in my mind, but yeah, I agree. I think it could be looked at again. It's we're in 2021, so it's been 4 years, and that technology certainly, it evolves quickly. It's kind of like light bulbs, right? Light bulbs evolve very quickly. So I would agree to to vote against it. So we can go through. Go ahead, Kurt.
Chris, I got a question on the economic viability of a 2.5 acre site. Is that based on the developer's numbers? Is that what they quoted? Where did that come from? That
yeah, that was the based on the information the developer had supplied, but I did vet that with 2 other sources, who said, yeah, it is not economically viable anymore to build a 2 megawatt system, just because of the way the Public Service Commission works, and the NYSERDA rebates, and all of the different incentives that exist right now aren't viable unless you're at least 5 megawatts, which equates to 8.25 acres.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, at work myself, we did a much smaller system, and we got competitive bids down in Orange County where the electric rates are not that high. So I would be hard pressed to, I don't know, I would take that with a grain of salt, I guess I would say.
Well, this is considered utility scale. I don't, there's differences, because obviously for residential scale, people can, put just a couple of panels in their yard or on their roof and it makes sense. But for however the rebates work and the sale on the the market of renewable energy, if it's considered large scale solar, that's where the break point is at 5 megawatts for certain rebates and incentives.
Yeah. The project at work was an acre and a half, so it wasn't, it wasn't a residential house. It was still fairly large, and they still were able to work it out.
Okay.
Regardless, I mean,
like I said, if you look at the area involved, it's tough to tell how much of it would be seen from Best Road or from that, Lewis Drive that's a half a mile away. I don't, and there's one next door neighbor that, could obviously, that's going to be, you can see it in the maps I put on the report. I don't think that the tree line is thick enough to totally screen, but the developer is very willing to put whatever screening necessary. To me, that's just not the issue. I just think that 350% increase in area is too substantial to set a precedent of going through
sure.
the zoning board.
And Chris, I'm not familiar with Lewis Drive, but is that a road that maybe in 10 years somebody would put a development in back that way?
No, it already is a development. I don't know. Is there a way to pull up like my report, the pictures I have in my report? Yeah, so you can, thanks Adam or whoever put that up. So the proposed area, sorry, my scribbles aren't very good on this, but the proposed area is the red square. There's a neighbor, you can see the National Grid right away that goes through there. And then Lewis Drive is it's about 300 feet away. And it's fully developed. There wouldn't be any additional development, and it's at a high point in that landscape.
Looks like they'd have to take a lot of trees down, though.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, they will be taking a lot of trees down.
Right. One comment that I'd like to make is that even though they say 8 acres of disturbed area, a lot of these solar farms, I find they need to take more tree and vegetation down just so they get the proper sun exposure, depending on how low it is and the angle that the sun actually comes down and hits the panel. So I think that 8-acre site could potentially be, maybe 10, 12 acres to get the optimum exposure. I think Chris is spot on about mentioning visual impact study, because something like this with some type of tethered balloon with some checks up on Lewis Drive and some higher elevations, I think it's a great idea. I don't think that that development is saturated up there, and I personally wouldn't want to live up there and look at a solar array of 8 acres. So I think he's had a great comment about requesting or at least implementing that visual impact study with a lot of these larger solar arrays.
Yeah, as far to that point about developable land, there's not a lot left in East Greenbush, right? So to take up 8 acres, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. And I did also recommend in the report, if this, goes forward, or if this goes forward, that those residents on Lewis Drive, I think if it's possible, they should receive notification of the public hearings, even though we usually limit that to 500 feet or something. I mean, they're farther away than who we would normally notify, but given the,
yeah, based on the size
the fact that they are.
Yeah, based on the size of that parcel, I assume that would actually hit them. I could be wrong, but because it goes from the property line.
From the well, it's about 3,000 feet as the crow flies.
Yeah.
from where the proposed site is to the end of Lewis Drive there. And I thought our radius was more like 500 feet neighboring, within 500 feet. But anyway, if they could just be notified, I think that's important that they understand that this might have an impact. There's also, if you look on the picture that's up right now, you can see where the driveway off of Best Road goes, and then how they're proposing to, as the driveway hooks to the right there, as like a dogleg right. That's where they would be building the access road to get back into the site. And part of that road continues on to go over the neighbor, and that neighbor, would need to continue to have access. And the road goes over a bridge, which the developer said definitely needed more engineering study. There's a concrete bridge that goes over a tributary of Mill Creek, which is a trout spawning ground, amongst other things. So, there's a number.
I think we're starting to figure out why they need 8 acres.
Yeah. And by the way, they did say in their report that they would be disturbing 26 total acres in the project. And, I couldn't quite calculate where they were coming up with 26 acres, but by the time they rebuild and construct a road, I guess they're counting all of that area.
Yeah, it's got to be more than that. I mean, look at the road compared to the 8 acres of the solar field. 20.
It seems off scale to me, but,
when
once
you say that, I'm definitely against it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5 months of construction to get everything done, but really the only heavy construction, the trucks that would come through, is they have to either pour or put in 2 concrete pads that are precast. And then once it's built, it's very little maintenance. It's, someone going to mow it once or twice a year, and an electrician going to check a few things once or twice a year. But once it's up, it's up.
Okay.
Well, did I misunderstand though, or did they claim that there'd be a number of permanent jobs created because of this? Is that sort of a spin-off thing, or they're actually going to be people working on site?
They did claim, I want to say it was 32 jobs, but it's construction jobs for the most part. They weren't permanent.
So it's basically somebody coming in to check the electricity and mow once in a while. Is that it?
Yeah. Yep. Now, there is some community benefit of, a solar project like this, that East Greenbush, if you look at how Skodak does it, there would probably be a tax pilot put in, or look at how Skodak does it. We'd probably put a tax pilot in place and, garner a lot more tax revenue from this piece of property than just being forest land. And the
tax pilot does the opposite though, right? It's a payment in lieu of taxes.
Right. Well, I guess that's just typically how they do that. And by law, we offer up a tax pilot so that it's not the full assessed value of this. If this costs, I don't know how many millions of dollars, there's a tax pilot that gets put in place to assess over a 5 or 10 year period the value of it. But it's a lot more than forested land. It's not the full value of whatever the cost of the project is. I don't know where in between it falls, but I think my point is it will be a lot more tax revenue than what the land is currently producing for the town today in taxes. Yeah. And the residents of East Greenbush could have the opportunity to buy this first, buy the reduced cost power first before they put it on the open market, if we wanted to stipulate that as well.
Unless it's developable land in the future, and then you were getting a lot less tax revenue, right?
Well, I think a solar field, a solar array of this magnitude would be more than, unless it's going to be multi-million-dollar homes that would be put in that forested area. We're going to get more taxes from the commercial value of the solar system than any residential homes that would be put back there.
All right, so Kurt, you have anything else? Ralph, anything else?
No.
John Panton?
Yeah, I want to ask Chris, did they mention anything about the latitude we're at here? We're at 42 degrees north, and another 3 degrees, which is 300 miles north. You're at halfway to the North Pole. And they say anything on how well it's going to work during the winter solstice? Because the sun is awful low.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I'm sure they've done their studies, but they didn't have anything about the, efficiencies of the panels in their application at all.
Yeah. See, our latitude's up there. All right. And they gotta aim those just in the right direction, because once you hit the solstice, it's 65 point some degrees away. It's down on the Tropic of Capricorn with the direct rays. And that makes a big difference in the winter months. How much energy you don't see people plopping them on their roofs that much. Really, up here, you're pretty far north. In Virginia, you're down in Virginia, say another 500 miles south. Every degree is about 100 miles of latitude. So you got it's good down there, but we're getting to the fringes of it up here at 42 degrees. I say 3 more degrees, you're 300 miles north. You're halfway to the North Pole. I would never do it myself. My personal.
Well,
I
know these kind of panels typically rotate, with the sun. But
they do. Okay. I didn't know that. So it's because they got, you know how low it is here around Christmas. They got to try to catch every ray they can.
Well, I think that
that's just my.
I think a big system like this is typically ballasted, and they don't oscillate like the one at like the treatment plant. Those are only smaller systems.
Yeah. Yeah, I see, but we're at the fringes up here for solar. You're getting pretty far north. So anyway, that's my comment.
Developers seem to feel that it's it's a viable location for a solar field.
They got to aim them.
And to me, if the town doesn't want more than 2.5 acres, 8.5 is a very big jump. The town's got to decide: do we want to support renewable energy? Part of the comprehensive plan says that we support renewable energy, and if that's the case, then we ought to reconsider the laws that would make that possible.
I agree. 350% is a big increase. I agree completely. I just wonder if they have made any comments how well it really does work. See, I have my doubts. So anyway.
All right. Thanks, Tom. And then John Conway.
Yeah, when I first saw this project a few weeks ago, I thought this was really kind of an ideal location, being out on Best Road along the NIMO sort of right away there. I thought that's a good place to put it, and East Greenbush needs this sort of solar panel development somewhere in town. But I think Chris brought up some really, really good points, particularly about the precedent that we'd kind of be advocating here if we were to endorse it. I think that I was around for the 2017 law as well, and I remember it. And I think there's still a majority of the town board, 3 members, maybe 4, who actually voted on that law. So, and I think kind of advocating for a variance here kind of does just negate the law completely. I think every other developer who wants an 8-acre site or more is going to be before the zoning board claiming, they're entitled to it. So, and I'm happy to see that the developer is willing to work on some things like screening and all that sort of stuff. So maybe something can be worked out, but yeah, I don't know that we can fully endorse it as it appears before us now.
Yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah, John, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think it's a great spot for a project like this. Assuming that the visual impact studies show that it's not, too, aesthetically obtrusive to some of the neighbors, but it is a really good spot right on that right of way and everything else. It just, I was truly torn.
Yeah, I think their time would be better suited to petition a town board and talk to them and see what they think, what they think about the law, and the law should be revisited. But yeah, I agree. A variance I don't think is appropriate in this situation. Anyone else have anything? Okay. So with that, I'll make a motion to accept Ms. Horn's report and make a negative recommendation on this proposal to the zoning board as it relates to planning within the town of East Greenbush. Joe, does that sound right?
Yeah, that's fine. And yeah, and to send it on to the ZBA.
And that we then send it on to the ZBA as a referral. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Panton. Mr. Panton.
Roll call as follows. Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
Next, we'll move on to ZBA Appeal 2012-04. 2012? Is that right? Is it 2021-04?
I think it is, yeah.
45 Acorn Ave for an area variance report by Mr. Viola.
The numbers are just transposed, Matt.
I was gonna say, how long has this thing been sticking around?
Well, mine's a little easier than Chris's was. The applicant lives at 45 Acorn Avenue, and he also owns a parcel behind his existing parcel where his residence is that actually has frontage on what I'm going to call a paper street, which is Newberry Street. And what the owner is looking to do is a lot line adjustment so he can incorporate both lots. In accordance with section 2.6.6F, specific district standards, there shall only be one principal building and one principal use per lot. Any double frontage lots fronting on parallel or abutting street require planning board approval and review. So if he isn't able to build a garage back there and incorporate his parcels because he has frontage, his home fronts Acorn, and the garage is going to front Newberry. I don't, in looking at the site, I visited the site several times. It's that Newberry Street is a dead end street. There really isn't anything that any building construction that I think would be obtrusive or detrimental to the neighborhood. But one thing that I think really needs to be mentioned is that this is a very large garage that he's proposing. So you're looking at, I know we spoke about this at the last meeting, but he's looking at a 30 by 40 garage that's 1,200 square feet with, he's showing it as with second floor area also. So it's a perfect opportunity for an in-law or apartment dwelling at some point. You know, if you look at this area variance and all of the criteria that we have to meet, it really does meet most of the criteria in a positive way. But I'd like to recommend that we at least place the following conditions of this area variance approval possibly. And number one is, I think it's very important that this garage be solely used for the owner's use only, and that no auto repair or maintenance shop be allowed, or that public services be offered in this dwelling. It seems to me that with this door being only a 10 by 10 garage door, there's a lot of area in there that would allow him to do a lot of things that may not be strictly garage or storage usage. And the second condition that I'd like to see is that this structure would not be habitable. You know, given the size of this garage, it could very easily be retrofitted or converted into a family dwelling or apartment. As I mentioned, you got 1,200 square feet on the first floor with an additional second floor area. One thing I guess we also can request is any utility hookups. You know, especially if you claim that there's going to be utility hookups to sewer and water. To me, that's another red flag to where, you know, possible bathroom, kitchen, whatever can be installed at a later date. As far as the typical lot line adjustment, if it was a small garage or a small storage shed, I think it fits the neighborhood. I will say, in the owner's defense, his property is very well kept. It's a nice home. I expect that he would build a very nice garage according to his plans. But I just caution, given the above findings, I cautiously offer a positive recommendation to grant this area variance.
Thanks, Ralph. Yeah, I'm good with those conditions. So we can roll through the board. Chris?
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. That was my only concern was, are they gonna, turn this into, is this gonna expand from a garage into a small house or something down the road? So I like your recommendation a lot, Ralph.
All right, thanks, Chris. Kurt?
Yep, I agree. I was concerned about the commercial use and then also turning it into some type of residence and running full utilities at it. I believe he's gonna have electrical power to it. But, once he starts to hook in sewer and water, then, there's a trouble there.
Well, and just one quick note is that, this really needs to be policed because, what happens, what we dictate here, if it doesn't go any farther, all our efforts go unnoticed. So I'd just like to make a point that I'd like to make sure that this somehow gets expressed to our building inspector and that it's pointed out what our intentions are.
Fair enough. We'll leave that up to Adam. You're welcome.
I think the variance paperwork, including those conditions, if they're applied, would be part of the building inspector, the building department's files.
Yeah, no, I understand that. My point is that, sometimes a lot of this stuff gets overlooked, and I just, once the building is constructed, out of sight, out of mind. He's on a paper street. He's all by himself. A drive-by, 6 months from now or whatever, wouldn't be a bad idea. I know it's asking a lot, but I could see this situation happening.
All right, Don?
Yes, I agree 100% with Ralph. You got to keep tabs on it, and it could change, but everything he says is true. I agree.
Thanks, Don. John Conway?
Yeah. I might have a bit of a different view here, I think. I'm really not so worried about this being turned into a residential property or a residential use down the line. This is a residential neighborhood that we're talking about, whether it's Acorn Street or Newberry. And to me, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think the concern about using a garage of that size for non-residential, commercial purposes would be indeed something to worry about and should be conditioned. But I don't know. I mean, if it was just a house being built there, I don't know that I'd have a problem with it.
Well, Ralph,
did he say what he was going to use that size building for?
I'm sorry, Kurt, I didn't hear.
Yeah, what was he going to use a building of that size, square footage and height? Did he?
Well, right, and that's I believe at the last meeting he said he tinkers with cars and whatever, and it just seems to me. I understand where you're coming from, John. I just rather the applicant be upfront and say, I want to build a house here, boom, bang, bang, and be done with it.
Yeah, that'd be another discussion altogether. Yeah.
I just don't like, and I'm not saying this is the case, but I just don't like the fact that someone comes in front of the board and says, I'm going to build a 1,200, probably almost 1,800 square foot garage. and then ultimately with plans on turning it into an in-law apartment or whatever. That's my only concern. I'm not saying this is the case, but it could easily turn into that, John.
It could. I mean, and the thing you got to worry about here is what we're deciding is going to be kind of permanent. It's not this particular owner of this piece of property. We could do this, and 6 months later he sells the property and somebody else is owning the building, and so yeah.
Oh, Ralph, one of your conditions was for the commercial aspect, right? To not allow that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That
We
was,
certainly see that.
yeah, no auto repair or maintenance shop be allowed, or no public services be offered in this dwelling. In other words, he couldn't sell anything out of this location.
Yeah, Ralph, I think have the same. I agree with you there as far as we've been burned so many times by people coming before us, and
I mean, you've also got the situation where sometimes people use these garages to run services, landscaping, for example. They keep their trucks there and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They're not using it to repair vehicles or anything like that. They're just storing them. But in fact, they're running a business out of it. So yeah, I think
look at that building across from the Price Chopper Plaza. That looks like a multi-family house, but it's got all sorts of trucks and stuff parked behind it. And it's also got, I think, 4 different gas services that you can see when you're driving on 9 and 20. That stuff really frustrates me. I can't stand that.
So that's my report.
All right, Rob.
There were some other issues with this, which I don't know if they've been worked out about the street, whether he's taking part of the street for a driveway, or we're extending the street and letting him put a driveway there.
Well, there was some correspondence from the title company that basically said, typically on a situation like this, with a paper street, the owner of the adjacent property is afforded ownership to the center line of the road, of the proposed road. And according to the documentation, that would give him enough room for his driveway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Michael's Road is a paper street, and we ran into that with Covered Bridge. A debate about it, I guess. And so each side of the road you own till the center. You own to the center line. The town doesn't technically own it.
Yeah, if you look at one of the pictures, you'll see the asphalt actually stops right at the property line of this parcel, and there is a dilapidated garage right there, right alongside the parcel now. So.
So does anyone have any other comments or questions or concerns about voting on this?
Matt, I'll just chime in real quick in terms of the commercial uses in any residential zone, including this one. You can't have a commercial garage. You can't have retail or services running out of that lot. The only thing I would caution the board is that accessory dwelling units are allowed in every zone in town, including the residential zones. So I would just caution the board to put a blanket restriction on any future accessory dwelling unit, just because that is allowed by special use. Of course, they would have to come back and get a special use permit for that to be allowed.
Yeah,
that's all.
Well,
but as we know, people don't always comply with the law. So,
right.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a little confusing because the area variance, they're really looking for a lot line adjustment. Is what the area variance really does. It combines the 2 lots. And currently the way it sets, I agree with you, Joe, but given the fact that I just think the additional conditions just kind of reinforces and maybe sends a little hammer along with the approval.
Yeah, I agree.
Rather than not having any conditions.
All right, so with that, I'll make a motion to, the East Rivers Planning Board accepts Mr. Viola's report on 2021-04 Craw 45 Acorn Avenue. And with the conditions included in the report, and we refer that to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is all related to planning aspects of the town of East Greenbush. Do I have a second?
Second,
Who was that? Oh, Chris.
second,
Threw me off with the phone. Second by Ms. Horn.
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
yes.
Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Motion carried by 6-0 vote.
I'm just waiting for someone to vote against their own referral.
What happened, Matt?
Maybe I'll do it. I'll just purposely do that. Next, we have the March 24th, 2021 meeting minutes. Allison, great job again. Any comments or questions by the board? Can anyone not vote, Allison?
No, everybody can vote.
I will make a motion to approve the March 24th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bergman.
Roll
The
call
hand
as
wave
follows.
helps, the hand wave helps a lot, Kurt. I appreciate that.
Roll call as follows, Chairman Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Viola,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Ms. Horn,
I'm gonna abstain. I totally forgot to read them. I apologize.
okay. Mr. Panton,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
motion carried by 5-0, vote.
Great. And so just one last thing with housekeeping. Town Hall has opened back up. And as far as meetings, you don't have to say this, tell me now. You can send me a private email if you want, but just at some point, give me an idea of how comfortable you are as far as starting in-person meetings again. So if anyone ever wants to just shoot me a note at some point, or you can call me and we can talk about it. Happy to talk about it. I think, we've discussed having at least if we were going to do it in person, one of our meetings a month would be back at the Red Barn, just because we overlap with town board meetings. So keep that in mind.
Matt, I'm okay. I'm okay with Red Barn time. Matter of fact, I'd rather do that than these Zoom meetings any day. So I'm
right.
okay with that.
All right, thanks, Tom. So something to think about. If you could, preferably shoot me a note over the next week or so. Let me know how you feel about it. That would be appreciated.
And next meeting, I will be out of town, so I will miss the meeting, no matter where it is.
You can zoom in from out of town, Kurt.
Hopefully they're going somewhere good.
They don't have internet down in Florida.
Oh, there you go.
Heard that before.
Hey, I have a question about the next meeting. I thought I saw that there was a public meeting set for that Best Road Solar project. Is that true?
Yes, the zoning board meeting for that is on the 26th or the 27th, yes.
That's the zoning board. Okay, I thought it was a public hearing that was set for that date.
Yeah, that's what they have, is they have public hearings on all their applications.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so that would be, their meetings are always the day before ours.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They always have public hearings for the projects, like Allison said.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
I think that's all I had. And Adam, you guys are still actively looking to recruit another planner to replace Dahlia, right?
Yeah, actually, we had our finalist. Her name is Anna Feltham. She spoke with the town board tonight during an executive session, kind of as a meet and greet. We had 2 interviews, and she was she proved to be our kind of the committee's choice. And so, yeah, we're very excited. She excelled in the interviews, and the stuff that we did a little exercise like preparing a staff report for a proposed subdivision, and she nailed that one. She's currently, she will need to relocate from Wisconsin. She's working for a consultancy, Mead and Hunt, right now.
Wow.
So anyway, she hopefully we'll make an offer tomorrow night, and or an offer tomorrow.
Wisconsin.
Did you do a national search? How did someone from Wisconsin find our opening in East Greenbush?
I don't recall. If it was Indeed, we advertised on Indeed and also on Planetizen, which is like a planners forum.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Maybe I'll wear a tie when she starts, just to make sure she knows how professional we are. All right. Anyone got anything else?
We did receive some communication on the town center since the last meeting. I think they sent a photograph of a drive-through in Malta, I think it was, on Route 9, that sort of thing. I don't know. They were looking for additional comments, and I'm kind of new to this project, but I got to tell you, I'm thinking about this a lot. The more I hear about this drive-through, the less I like it. And as I drive up 9 and 20 now, I'm noticing the other drive-throughs all on that side of the street, and there's none quite like the one they're proposing. So I don't know when we get back to discussing that with them, but I just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, I would submit comments as you think about them, or generate a list, and I think that's more help. That would be helpful for them before they come back to to a meeting.
Yeah.
It'll allow them to modify their project prior to getting to us, so we're not designing it for them, when they get here.
Yeah.
But no, that's a very fair point. I personally forgot to. I looked at it and then I put it in the back of my mind. Anyone else? Okay. So with that, I will make my closing or adjourning, Joe. My brain's not working today. Close, I think.
So closing. Sorry, it's just unmuting.
And feel free to use your hand. I'll make a motion to close the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting is closed. Everyone have a great night.
Yeah.
Thank you. You too.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Yeah.
Night.
night.